The views and opinions expressed by guests on this podcast are solely their own and do not represent the position of the host, this show, or any organization either party is affiliated with. All content is shared purely for educational and inspirational purposes. Nothing discussed here constitutes professional advice. Listeners are encouraged to independently verify any information before acting on it. The host is not responsible for any outcomes resulting from guest statements. By listening, you agree that you are solely responsible for how you use the information shared. Welcome to the Tech Sharmit podcast, where technology is not just news, but the roadmap to the future. This is a space where we explore the latest tech trends, AI, startups, gadgets, and the ideas that redefine the way we think. Leading this conversation is Amit Sharma, globally recognized as Tech Sharmit. A technologist from Bharat, Amit brings an Indian perspective to the global technology landscape. With deep technical expertise and strong industry insight, and for his contributions and impact within the global tech community, he has been recognized with several prestigious honors, including Google Developer Expert, Microsoft MVP, IBM Champion, and Planet Mainframe Influencer. Through this podcast, he shares practical knowledge, real-world perspectives, and globally relevant thinking designed to help you stay ahead in an ever-evolving technology landscape. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the Tech Sharmit channel to stay updated with future episodes. And if you're looking to level up your skills, don't forget to explore the Tech Sharmit digital course book in the description box, where you'll find thousands of free programming courses curated to help you grow as a developer. So plug in your headphones and join us as we begin today's episode of the Tech Sharmit podcast.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Tech Sharmit podcast. Today I'm joined by another special guest, Sandi Moore, who is joining us all the way from United States. If I talk about Sandi, then she is a principal solution engineer at Fortran and an IBM champion with over 20 years of working experience across IBM AIX and Linux environment. She specializes in cybersecurity, compliance, data privacy, and forensic analysis as well. So in today's episode, we will talk about IBM security, ransomware risk, compliance challenges, and the realities organizations often overlook when protecting their work environment. But before we get started, I would like to thank Sandi for joining us today in this episode. And now I request you to please initiate the discussion by telling us a bit about yourself.
Oh my goodness. You've said a lot. I've been working with IBM for over 20 years and I love security. I can't tell you, I love talking about cybersecurity, security on IBM. Doesn't matter, I'll talk about it. I have been started out actually not even in a technical role. I started as a customer service rep and I started asking questions. They wanted me to ask customers, how is your software working? And I said, well, what does the software do? Okay. And they said, well, you don't need to know that. You just need to ask them if it's working okay. And I said, but I need to know what it does so that I know when they say it does it, that I know what they're talking about. And so I just started asking more questions and said, I want to see it. And so I just started working with it. And then I started learning how it works. And then I started supporting it. And then I had an opportunity to move into security, and that was the part where I thought, okay, I get to be the superhero of IBM security, and I get to help fight the bad guys. And it was just like, I love doing it. I ask anybody that I have worked with, I get so passionate and I just get so riled up when I'm talking about it. So.
Yes, right. And as you mentioned, you started from the non-technical background and then you switched it into the technical things. So was that transition smooth for you, or did you also face any kind of initial challenges when you were moving from non-technical to technical background?
I didn't. I've always had a very, very technical personality. Like I love to get my hands in things. I have visual, spatial skills, but I love to read and fiction and all of that. And I'm artistic, but I've always been really good in that technical area. I can fix anything, and I can break anything too. So that's always fun.
Okay. All right. And as you mentioned, like you love to read and know more about the technical
Mhm.
things. And I think I have the proof of that because you are both a certified professional forensic analyst, at the same time, a certified data privacy practitioner. And honestly, like I believe that most people pick one path at a time, right? So what drove you
Yeah.
to pursue both of that together, and how do they like inform each other in the practice when you are implementing it into your day-to-day work?
Yeah. So for me, it's about my curiosity. I want to know how you dig into things and how to figure out what's happened and that forensic side of it. And I think it helps for me to help customers better get their system secure is to understand what they're going to look for
Mm-hmm.
if there is in fact a breach. If something happens, how are they going to dig into it so that I can make sure that they have the right information available if something happens? Better yet, why don't I not make it, not let it happen, right? So make sure that I'm pointing out where they can secure things better. And then with the data privacy, the IBMI is all about the data, right?
Correct.
It's one big giant database and it has so much valuable information. Most companies, it's their core server. And
Right.
that's the crown jewels and it's the data. So in order for me to help them protect it, I have to understand the rules around data privacy and how you need to be approaching it. And so, both things, while they're very different, they have helped me be in the middle and help people understand. I actually went and got another certification on AI security recently. And,
Right.
I got that one because, well, AI is not going anywhere. And I need to understand how that's going to impact IBMI security. So it
Right.
always comes back to the things that are with IBMI security.
Yes, and I think as we are discussing about IBMI, so we all know that IBMI runs on payroll, banking, healthcare, and some of the world largest organization, right? Yet it
Yeah.
barely mentioned in the mainstream cybersecurity conversation. So, what do you think, like from your perspective or from your experience, why does it stay invisible when we are talking about the security aspects of IBMI ecosystem?
I think sometimes that the security people in these big organizations they don't know how to speak the language of IBMI. We have very
Yeah.
unique terminologies, very unique ways in the way things are done on IBMI, and it doesn't always align with the mainstream cybersecurity practices. And the basics are the same, just getting there is different, and you have to translate it. I also think that there's, very common misperception. It's secure by design. It's inherent security built in,
Yes.
and oh, nobody knows how to use it, so therefore we're fine. And it's unfortunate because like you said, it's in so many major companies globally. It's not in the US, not just India, not any, Europe. It's
Yes.
everywhere, and it needs to be understood better. I I,
Correct.
I really feel that.
Right. And one more thing you just said that IBMI, like there is a long held belief that IBMI is inherently secure. So first of all, like I would like to ask, like how dangerous is that myth? And what do you think? Like, what's the first vulnerability you almost always find when you walk into
Mhm.
any new customer environment that are dealing with the IBMI ecosystem?
Probably there's probably two things that are my biggest that I run into when I first start looking at a system, and that's going to be command line access, because
Okay.
that security by obscurity is relying on, oh, we have green screen menus. That's all they can do, right? That's
Right.
as far as they can go. But you get users with command line access, they can break through those menus, and then suddenly they're in the system. And the second thing is the lack of exit programs, because these users, which are very often overprivileged, they have too many special authorities or a group profile that gives them these additional administrative rights on the system, is
Yes.
that green screen's not the only way you can get to IBMI, right? There's
Right.
ODBC, FTP,
Correct.
file server, DDM, DRD. I mean, there's so many external connection points.
Yes.
And that's where I find a lot that they're not even watching. right? So these users have access to the system. The end user who doesn't know a whole lot about technology is not the threat. It's the person who has their credentials that's the threat.
Right.
That's where things go sideways, is they compromise credentials. So it's pretty significant. It can be pretty significant in the damage that can happen, and not even know how it happened, what did they get to? We don't know. We're not auditing. We don't see it. So,
Right.
oh, it's an uphill battle sometimes. You know, the system isn't, there's a lot of controls you can put into place, right? There's a lot of
Correct.
things you can change to take advantage of the secure infrastructure. And honestly, with IBM's been doing a great job, 7.5 and 7.6. They've
Yes.
really stepped up to the plate and started adding the security functionality that is getting the system more secure. So it's actually keeping up and able to compete in this highly technical environment we're in now.
Yes, right. And very importantly, like as you said, that sometimes we feel that developers are provided with those kind of authorities which are not required, right? They are provided with the admin kind of authority. So it's a best practice. I think those who are working with the IBM ecosystem, they can also agree with us that yes, it is not required to provide all those kind of authorities until or unless it is
Yeah.
needed, especially for the developers, because their work is completely different. They don't need
Mm-hmm.
that kind of authorities. And you know what, Sandy, like other than this, yes, these command line things, and other than that, I think there is one more very important thing that we should talk
Mm-hmm.
when we are talking about the IBM security, that is integrated file system, IFS, because it is
Oh
often
my gosh.
described as one of the biggest overlooked security gaps on IPMI. So, do you agree on this with me? Like when we are
Oh,
talking about IFS?
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And that goes back to assuming people don't have access, right? And
Yeah.
the integrated file system, or IFS, or some people, when I get on a call, they call it ISF. They get it confused. So
Yes.
obviously they don't know how to secure it if they can't even say it.
Correct.
So what it encompasses the entire system. When you look at the root directory in the IFS, it includes qsys.lib. That's your operating
Yes.
system. And
Right.
what I see is that it is shared. People will share the root directory and expose the entire system. So not only is your files that you might store in the IFS in your home directory or in one of your product directories, but you may also have your operating system, your applications
Mm-hmm.
exposed as well. And
Correct.
it's not, maybe the database isn't going to be real useful if they get a hold of that file out of your application, but it could be damaged. And if that user has authority, that's where that kind of damage comes from. So it's definitely misunderstood. The sharing of folders makes the access to the system super convenient, right? And developers, you guys are terrible. You want to get an update, you don't want to do one thing, so you just, I'll just grab this and pull it up to the system this way.
Right.
And well, and two, if we think about, with the modernization of IBMI, we're using the IFS much more heavily too, because you've got any graphical representation of the system, it's stored in the IFS. Web interfaces, that's going to be stored there too. So you've really got everything you need for that system to function right there.
Right.
And you let somebody map a drive to it, your whole core server to this for the company. It's like, whoa, what are you doing?
Correct.
So yeah, it's definitely an exposure. And being a Windows style folder structure,
Mm-hmm.
host Windows stream files. And I know this leads right into our next conversation, or next question is malware, right?
Malware. Yeah. Right.
That can that file system can hold anything,
Correct.
any kind of file. Doesn't matter what kind of file it is, it can be there, and it will happily host malware without symptoms. And that's kind of where, okay, wait a minute. You mean we have a server, our core server, that can have malware on it and we
Mm.
won't even know about it? That's not good, right?
Correct. Right. Yes. And like Sandy, like if you had to explain in a very simple terms, some of the best practices regarding the IFS, like when we are dealing with the IFS system. So what do you think, like what are the best do's and don'ts when we are dealing with it in a very simple terms, so that even
Yeah.
if a developer is there, they can also follow it.
Yeah. So I would I would never share root, right?
Okay.
Never share that forward slash. That's a big no-no. Because that does expose the whole system.
Yes.
If you do have to create shares, create them as read only, if possible, right? At least that way the information's only being stolen and not damaged,
Correct.
right? I would probably, I look at security in layers. So you
Mhm.
have to have layers of security, especially with IFS security. Consider MFA, having exit
Yes.
programs to control what somebody can do, right? Because you may have to have a read write share. Okay,
Correct.
so let's put some exit programs that say yes, they can come in. No, they can't delete stream files, or no, they cannot even go to this directory, even though they have all object, right? So that's
Mm.
another layer. Another layer is antivirus, right? So using antivirus and a ransomware functionality to look at the content of what the users are putting on the system or trying to open or download from the system, and making sure that that malware that sits there undetected is actually detected. So native virus scanning makes the system more secure because you're not moving everything across the network and trying to actually compound the problem.
Correct. Correct. I think these are some of the best do's and don'ts that anyone can follow when they are dealing with the IBMI system, especially when they are dealing with the IFS system. So now, Sandy, moving ahead, we'll talk about another security thing, that is ransomware, because I believe that a lot of IBMI shops assume that they are too isolated or maybe too obscure to be a ransomware target. So, from your experience, how does ransomware actually reach these environments, and what the cost of the assumption? Like, what do you think? Like, how it can impact
Yeah.
when they are targeted with ransomware?
Yeah, it's another server, right? It is just another server in your environment, and it's underestimated in the scope of the damage. It goes back to the shares I was talking about, where you have created shares. That user has enough authority to modify files, rename files, delete files. That's when those ransomware attacks become effective
Yes.
against the system, because they go through and they just see it as another server. The user has access to this share in the environment, and it's going to attack that file system just like it did everything else. And the impact can be catastrophic. If
Correct.
you have that share of the root directory and you have your all object privilege, because we love to give that out, and it's
Hmm.
always the administrators somehow that end up being the problem, because
Correct.
they're the ones who know how to map the drive. They know how to create the share. They have all the authority. And then they are the ones who accidentally click on the link in the email, or,
Hmm.
whatever it is. They don't pay attention. They're doing too many things. And that's when it hits. And I've had customers with 500,000 files encrypted on an IBMI,
Hmm.
where the entire system screeching halt. They could, your communication files are there under the root, the QTCP TMM files. That's how your
Yes.
system is communicated with outside of the console, right?
Correct.
If you can't
Right.
get, if your communication files are down, your system is a boat anchor, right? You're not gonna be able to use it.
Correct.
So we've seen it happen where they can't get to their system, everything's locked up. Even native batch jobs can be impacted because they also use IFS files, write to files. And we've seen these systems where they're dead in the water, they can't do anything. We do have backups are better, right?
Yes.
Recovery
Right.
is better, but when you rely on high availability, guess what replicates? The damage from the ransomware attack. So
Yes.
your target system's just as bad as the production system. So then you have to go back to your backups. how far do you have to go back? So um, it's really, it can be so impactful. And discoverable shares, that's where things are going to happen. And I cringe, because how painful it is for these companies when they're dealing with it. If
Right.
you're down for one day, how much does that cost the company?
Yes, it was course a lot.
It's expensive. But if it's
Yes.
2 weeks, we've heard of companies going out of business because they couldn't recover,
Correct.
and the financial impact. So, if you can prevent something from happening, I would rather see you do that, right?
Right.
Don't let it happen. Let's not let it happen.
That's the best way to deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Okay, so now let's talk a bit about the compliance. So, from your experience, what's the single most misunderstood compliance requirement you encounter when in a IBMI environments? The one that completely trips people up most often, and uh, anything that you feel that yes, this is a common pitfall or a kind of compliance requirement that you always encounter when you are working with IBMI environments.
Yeah, there's two of them.
Okay.
First one is probably passwords. People
Mm-hmm.
really struggle with passwords for IBMI. I come across systems all the time that their minimum password length is 1.
Okay.
There is no reason why your system should have a minimum length of 1 on your passwords, right? Your most important server, and you're not guarding it.
Correct.
So I really want to see more movement in that area. That's probably one of the biggest challenges I've come across is passwords. It was better this last year in our State of IBMI security study that we published at Portra, but it still needs work. The other one is auditing. So we talk about compliance. If
Mm-hmm.
you don't have the information available for auditing, how can you be compliant? If you can't show what's happening, what's changed, who's accessing, especially when you have publicly traded companies with SOX compliance, if you don't have the right things turned on, how do you pass your audits? I don't get it, because auditing is not just turning it on, it's about making sure you have the right things being audited.
Correct.
And part of that is exit programs, having visibility to the information that's being accessed and updated outside of the native jobs. And that's where, if you don't have that visibility, you don't have your full audit trail of what happened. So you've got to have all the pieces in place
Right.
in order to actually be compliant with any of the standards.
Right. Right.
So yeah, it's definitely, you can have misconfigurations where one thing looks okay, but then the other is not quite right. So you miss it a little bit because you think you're doing it right, but then there's nuances to the auditing configurations, especially, and with the passwords too. Is there, you use one setting and you don't realize that you actually undid another configuration. So
Correct. Yeah, and I think these are very important thing that we everyone should consider, especially those who are working with IBMI ecosystem, because especially in the era of AI, we all know that attackers are also provided with these kind of AI tools, so they can plan the things more appropriately, right? So
yeah,
we need to make sure that everything is secured and everything is aware. Like at least we are aware of what could be the challenges for us in the upcoming days. So I think these are some best
yeah,
practices you just shared.
yeah.
So before we like, although like there are plenty of things that we can discuss on security, but before we move to the next part, I just want to talk with one like I need one advice from your end. So let's say if you could give one IBMI security teams one completely non-negotiable thing to fix in the next 90 days from now, so what would it be, and why does it is keep getting deprioritized when organization are handling it? So one thing that is completely non-negotiable things to fix the in the next 90 days for the team.
I would say non-negotiable is having the invalid sign-in attempts
Okay.
and the action that's taken when that user exceeds those invalid sign-in attempts set to appropriate levels.
Okay.
It's not always done, and that should be non-negotiable. You should be controlling that,
Mm-hmm.
whether you do, it just has to be done. And I see it over and over, and that just leaves that system potentially wide open. And 5 invalid sign-in attempts and then disable the profile.
Okay.
When you rely on disabling workstation only, that only applies to the green screen.
Hmm.
And you've got how many different interfaces that are not going to honor that. So I'd say it seems so simple and it's just a little thing,
Correct.
but that can be the difference between somebody hacking those one character passwords and keeping them out, So that's a non-negotiable. Make it happen.
Okay, and count-wise, 5 is enough, or you think like we should reduce this number also for invalid signing
I'm
attempt?
3 would be better, but if you don't have any limit right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Start at
Right.
least have something,
At
right?
least have,
25
yeah.
I think is the most you can do. That's better than no limit,
Correct.
So yeah, but it's just ah,
Yes, I think this is something that everyone should pay attention because it will really impact your overall workflow and your overall outcome and profit also. So
yeah.
be cautious
Yeah.
about it.
Bottom line, right?
Yes. Okay, so now, Sandy, like we talked about IBMI security related thing and technical things. I think now it's time to talk about the support system because before we conclude the discussion, I would like to know a bit more about your journey. So, looking back on your long career, who were the key people around you who had a defining impact on your journey so far?
Yeah. So, I have to my original mentor, Mike Grant, he was the founder of Byteware and
Okay.
software company that I started with. And he let me do stuff. He let me get my hands in the software. He let me start testing things. And it's when I learned my superpower of being able to break software. That's what a
Okay.
developer wants. You want the user that's going to go break it so you can figure out what other people are going to do.
Right.
Um, I've worked with Amy Williams, who is just such a wealth of knowledge. I worked under with Robin Tatum and Carol Woodbury. I've had the opportunity to work with some great IBMI security people, and they just have given me so much knowledge, and I'm always just want more. Give me more.
Okay. All right. So now I think now it's time to know a bit about the country you belong from. So as a proud citizen of United States, what is one best thing about US that you feel proud to share with the rest of the global world?
Yeah. So a lot of people, I mean, we're a huge country, right? We
Yes.
we we span a lot of miles, and we have so much diversity in the places you can go. You can go to the beach, you can go to the desert, you can go to the mountains, you can be on such high peaks and see the snow, and
Yes.
then half hour later you can be in the desert in the heat. And there's just so many things to do, so many places to go, and a national park system where you can go and enjoy these places without development of homes and businesses, and you can just be out in the wild and away from everything. It's cool. It's just so much to do, so many places to go, all just within our country. It's amazing.
Okay. So I think those who love adventure, they can find all kind of this adventures spot there, whether it's a snow, desert, or any other kind of stuff. So I think you just shared a best, I think, guide for those who love traveling and doing the adventurous things. So that's
Yeah.
a great thing. All right. So, yep. Thank you so much, Sandy, for joining us today in this episode and for sharing so much important things about IBMI security and ecosystem. I am sure like this will resonate and also it will encourage the IBMI shop owners to take care of these kind of situation, and at least make sure that yes, everything is in proper alignment in terms of security. So thank you once
Mhm.
again for being a part of this show and sharing so much insightful information.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you.